Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good evening.
Hello, hello, welcome everyone.
Welcome. We are today on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and we will talk about fear.
But the good part of fear, we always talk
Okay,
about
good,
fear like,
good.
oh,
Yeah, positive
yeah,
part of the fear. Absolutely.
yes.
If you can, Nika is here. Good evening from Finland. So if you can put in the comments that you can hear us and see us, I will check LinkedIn on my phone.
Yes, and we love having our regulars here. Thank you so much for always tuning in and
Yeah.
joining us, putting in good comments, sometimes commenting on my nail color. It's not so nice this time around, but always making our sessions enjoyable. So we've got YouTube going.
Yeah, we have YouTube. If somebody from Facebook can check also that all is fine. Yeah, if you can do that. For some reason. Okay. I can now, yeah. So
All
LinkedIn is
right.
working and Facebook, I can check it on my phone again.
Good. And as you're checking, maybe I'll jump us into the topic because we already sort of
Yeah.
started chit-chatting about it. You know, when people start talking about fear, they think, "Oh, fear is bad. I don't want it. How do I avoid it? How do I get rid of it? How do I conquer it? How do I blah?" It's all about how do we make fear go away. But nobody ever talks about what are the great parts about having fear. By the way, if you enjoy going hiking without walking off of a cliff, then you're pretty happy that you have factors in your body that say be afraid, right? If your senses go up, you know, when you're walking in New York and you maybe cross the street, someone looks a little dangerous. We want fear, but also fear at work can actually be a really good thing. So we're going to talk about today how to not just want to run away from fear or hide fear or avoid fear, but really how to make fear work for you.
Absolutely. As Lisa said, if there was no fear, we would not survive. Fear is really helping us to survive. You know, the kids are, if you think about it, kids are learning through the fear. If they are touching something which is very hot, second time they will not do that.
Yeah, exactly. Unless
So,
you're my kids. My kids don't learn lessons until the
yeah.
very, very hard way.
Uh, maybe I can kick it off. Okay. So,
Yeah.
fear can be positive and can drive us in our, lives, provided that there are two kinds of emotions. Okay, you can have a fear and you can say I'm fearful, and this is not necessarily good because then you will get stress a lot and so on. If you would say I observe my fear, or I notice my fear, I'm noticing my fear, that's a different thing, because in majority of the cases, according to the psychologists and psychiatrists, if you take like trauma, or if you take depression, it's coming from the fear. We are fearful because we are fearful. Okay, I'll explain what I mean. In my career, I was fearful of the deep, when there were deep turbulences, I was really having a lot of fear. Okay, and it was almost bad. But I was also fearful of the fear, so I would listen in the morning what was the weather forecast, and on CNN, this is like dramatic movie. It's not the weather forecast, right? Oh,
This is
and then you
moving
are in.
in. Yeah.
Okay, so I was fearful of my fears. Now, I started to breathe properly during the turbulences. Okay, so the start of the fear is still, I'm fearful, but I observe it. I'm like the third person observing what is happening with my body and so on. And then I'm able to, basically set up the protective mechanism, which in this case is the breathing, deep breathing, right? So that's what we know. So we need to observe our mind, to really do something with the fear. That's number one. Number two, one reason why people are fearful, they observe basically some monkeys, and they try to figure out, why are people depressed, right? Well, because the depression is coming from the fear, which is like
Yeah.
anxiety is chronic fear. That's what we agree for sure. Now, and they observed those, monkeys, and they were very like hierarchically, organized. Like who is the boss, who is the second, and so on. And they figure out that there are two reasons why people are fearful or why they have even, depression. Number one, you are, losing your status in the group. Okay. You are losing your status. You are not anymore that guy. You are maybe that guy. Okay. And number two, you are low in the group. That's another thing. And then, those monkeys started to do a lot of like submissive, gestures and stuff like that. Okay. So they figure out. And if you think about it today, there's a huge inequality in the human society. If you take your country, there are some people who are very rich. Middle class is disappearing step by step, and there's a lot of people who are kind of okay, but really only okay. They are not doing, great, right? So that's quite, interesting, and this is what, in my view, this is why it's good to give like, opportunity to study even, less fortunate kids and stuff like that. So we built, a little bit more. I'm not saying because we were living in like communistic or socialistic society, that's bad, right? But to give, it's like, hey, we should, everything was distributed or resources by the government, that's bad, right? But we should give chance those kids who are less fortunate because they were not born in the great, family. Let's put it in this way. Right? In my view, that's what needs to be done. But this is quite interesting. So we are fearful, and sometimes it goes to depression when we are losing the status. That's number one, and number two, when we are, dropping down, when we are pretty low, right? So yeah, that's kind of, intro. Yeah.
Love it. I mean, there are so many things that I could pull on here, but I'm going to pull on this last piece of what you did. And actually, there's a book somewhere behind me about it called Scarcity. And what you're describing is also there's a huge fear, a survival fear. There's not enough. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough food. I don't have enough time. Haha. Everybody says I don't have enough time. When you have this constant feeling of a scarcity, oh, I make a lot of money, but they make more money than I do. I have a nice, people who even have yachts and private jets. Oh, but he has a bigger private jet. I mean, there's no point where you ever reach where you say, I have enough, I'm happy, this is good. Human nature is the moment that we move up, we have more money, more status, we just start comparing ourselves with a different group of people and still feel a scarcity and not enough. And so when we constantly live in fear, I have many people that I'm coaching right now, executives who are going through layoffs at the moment, and they're going, how am I going to afford my children's lifestyles? We're used to having 2 houses, and they go to private school, and they go to the summer camp, and they have these activities, and they go horseback ride. And it's like, how do I maintain this status? So if you are forever living under a fear, it won't be enough. My job is unstable. It's uncertain. Will I have the money? Will I have scarcity? That is one of the biggest fears that usually keeps you from playing big, from doing what you love, from speaking up for your boundaries when you need it. It often, it does not serve a great purpose unless, here's the thing, if you're noticing, I'm observing that I'm having the feeling of worry about money, about this scarcity mindset, this worry about I don't have enough time, then you can use that. Here's where the switch comes from fear, oh my God, to opportunity. Okay, I'm noticing I don't have enough time. Guess what? None of us have enough time. Not one single person in your whole life will have enough time because we have a limited lifetime. So if you're feeling, I don't have enough time, actually you can go, okay, so hold on, knowing, accepting, loving, I do not have enough time. How can I start to plan my time differently so that I can do more of the things that I love? So we can use the awareness that fear brings to help us to build better the lives that we truly want. Don't get stuck in the rat race.
Yeah. And well, what is fear? Fear is emotion. What is emotion? Yes. Emotion is thought, your thought, touching your body, more or less. All fears are driven by our thoughts. Okay. And, mind and body are connected through the hormones. Okay. We'll explain. if you have a fear and you are like, hey, I'm fearful, I really fear this thing, cortisol is released, which is stress hormone, and your performance, you are fearful, and it will continue, and your performance goes down. If you will say, hey, I observe my fear, then you can do something against the fear, because otherwise you can't. I'll explain. If you are saying, I have a fear, then your emotional part of the brain called amygdala is in charge. And amygdala only one task is survival. So amygdala will not get you out of the fear. It's like fear is about the survival. So you need to include your logical part of the brain. That's why you need to like step back and say, I watch my fear, I observe my fear, I notice my fear, because then you can do something with that, right? What for example, what they know, if you will start to breathe properly, we can talk also about the nervous,
Please, yes.
system. Yeah, absolutely. So if you do like 4 steps ahead, your fear goes 40% down, because this is it. It's all program in your through your body language, because the step ahead means, okay, I will face the fear, basically, right? That's what they do. If those rugby players are playing New Zealand, those who are really going against them are usually more successful than the others who are like passive. Absolutely, right?
Yes.
So this is a huge difference. So if you want to really change the fear in your favor, you need to involve your professor, your cortex, your neocortex, right, your logical part of the brain. Now let's talk about the nervous system. Maybe you start and I continue about the nervous system. What it does with your body and how you can change it. Okay.
Yes, I'm going to actually start off with a story, because I, probably like many of the people listening, was brought up very intellectual. So I thought my body is just the thing that walks my brain around. I'm a very smart person. I use my brain. I use mental strength. I use power. I heard about meditation. Oh, I don't need this breathing stuff. I'm fine. Okay, breathe. Yeah, but I'm fine. And only since COVID did I start to realize, okay, wait, there's something more here. Somehow mental strength isn't going to be enough to pull us through this. Let me just see what this is about. And I still thought, breathing, okay, breathe. Fine, I breathed. But what I never understood, and what nobody ever explained properly, at least what I thought, was why you have to breathe. Okay, the nervous system. Jan said so many nice things. We have to understand how the brain works. The monkey brain, the amygdala, this fight or flight, this fear center, it's going to run the show. You do not have very many options there. The only way you're going to be able to get to your professor, the smart part of your brain, the part you love, the part that's human, the only way you can get there is lowering threat detection. Now, here's the hard part. Mental strength, when you say, I'm not afraid, I'm going to go speak in public, but I don't care what people think. Some of that is not felt in your body. Your body still knows, no, I'm scared. And the nervous system is the true measurement of what you're actually feeling, whether you're willing to recognize it or not in the brain. So we have to be able to use our nervous system and use our nervous system to tell our brain we're safe. Because just using your brain to tell your brain it's safe doesn't work. I didn't know that. I hope some of you now go, aha, that's why I have to breathe. This nervous system is what actually lowers your stress and actually lowers your threat, not just telling yourself, I'm not stressed, I'm fine, everything's fine, it's fine. That doesn't work. So the nervous system has 2 pieces. The sympathetic, fight or flight, let's go, I've got this energy, pump up. And then the opposite of that, the parasympathetic, which just helps everybody to rest, digest. One is running from the lion, and one is you're safe at home in your cave. Nobody's chasing you. I can relax. Now, when we talk about fight or flight, that's the sympathetic. It comes from the amygdala. Here's important. Freeze and appease. Those are the other options you have from your amygdala. That starts to activate your parasympathetic. Freeze, when you go, I don't know what to do, where do I go, I make the decision, I'm overwhelmed, which is where most people are these days. I just don't know. It's overwhelming. It means you have one foot on the sympathetic, which is the gas, go. At the same time, you have one foot on the brake system, stop, slow down. This is why you always feel like this, because you're trying to go, but you're stuck. You're not moving forward. And then the appease, meaning, okay, I'm sorry, I'm scared. I don't think I have enough power to win this, so I'm not going to fight. I don't think I have enough power to outrun. I'm just going to give up. This is the parasympathetic, and it starts to be along the lines of depression, like Jan was saying. Nobody explained this to me properly. When you have too little activation, depression is just, I can't even get up in the morning. I have no hope. It's the opposite of fear in a way, but oftentimes it's caused by fear. It's just that you don't have the feeling you can win or hope or can do anything about it. So we need to balance our nervous system. We're not saying never have the sympathetic, because if you never had the fight or flight, you wouldn't get up out of bed. You wouldn't do an awesome kick-ass presentation. You wouldn't know to not walk off a cliff, right? You wouldn't do a lot of the stuff that you love. But we don't want it overstimulated. That's the key. How do we make sure that the systems are in balance? We don't want it under where you're depressed. We don't want it over where you're anxious. We want them to be nicely in balance. And that is what we're going to talk about here today. And breathing is the fastest, easiest, best way to get these systems in balance. Now, if you need to go up, there's a breath. If you need to go down, there's a breath. And we'll talk about them all. Maybe, Jan, I hand it over to you because you love breath. You're so good at that stuff.
Okay, so sympathicus is this part of your body. And basically, you know, if you are stressed, it's activated. And what it does, your, you know, heart starts to beat very fast. You're breathing shallow way, like that, you know, and your diaphragm will stop to work, basically. This is the reason why, if you have like chronic stress, people, they have a lot of time, you know, problems with the stomach and, you know, stuff like that. With your, you know, with your gut system. Yeah, absolutely.
Because diaphragm is here in the stomach.
Yeah. It's absolutely. So and the thing is, if you are really under the huge stress, then your, you know, logical part of the brain will stop to work, basically, right? It's because it's all about survival, nothing else. It's just the only one priority. So it's like, and the blood is pumped, you know, in your upper part of your body. If you go for the fight, if you go for a flee, if you go for escape, it goes to your, you know, legs. And if you freeze, whatever, it goes to your to your whole body, right? Yeah. What is important? Amygdala, the emotional part of the brain, is connected with the how they call it. I just mentioned it.
You got to give me a little more context.
This
so the parasympathetic diaphragm.
Diaphragm. It's called, and if the diaphragm is blocked for amygdala, that's a signal. You know, there are still lions and tigers here. There's a problem. Okay, so I'm still fearful. If diaphragm will start to move, okay, that's the signal. Hey, you can, you know, sleep now. The lions and tigers are gone, and you are cooling down. So breathing is key. Then, not all type of the breathing. If you want to cool down, we should like inhale, and our exhale should be like 30% longer than the inhale. I explain why. Because if we are inhaling, you know, diaphragm goes down, and our heart got more space to pump blood into our, you know, body. On the other hand, if we are, you know, exhaling, that means that, you know, diaphragm goes up. There's a smaller, you know, space to pump the blood, and you are getting, you know, cooler. You are, you know, getting cooler. So it's always like breathe in and breathe out, like nicely, you know, right? So this is one thing. Then the other thing is try, because our body, you know, we can fool our brain through the body. I will explain you how. Okay, I'm saying, because I coach really some, you know, athletes. Some of them are winning, you know, medals at the Olympic Games, and you can fool your brain because, you know, our body, the first language was not spoken language, but it was a body language. which means even if you are losing or you are fearful, but if you are like staying straight, you're still getting like your cortisol goes down. So it's cooling down your nervous system. Your testosterone goes up, like 25% down cortisol, 20% up, testosterone. On your ability to decide is 1/3, better. Try to stay like that and go like that. I have a fear. I have a fear. I have a fear. Your brain will not believe that if you go like that. I have a fear. I have a fear. There's no way, right? So this is it. That's what you can do. Obviously, still, it requires, your brain to work. I think essential is to observe your fear. Okay, to be like the third person. Okay, I'm observing the fear because, in the nutshell, people believe, majority of the people, they believe that all thoughts are true. And this is bullshit, ladies and gentlemen. There are some thoughts which are true, but the majority of the thoughts are just the thoughts, right? Those are just the thoughts. So what the other thing, what you can do, if you are like fearful of something, you can stop and you can logically ask 3 questions, which is, by the way, cognitive therapy is like that. Is it logical what I'm thinking about? Okay. Do I have any proof? And is it good for me to think like that? If the answer is no, then it's not, real thought. It's not true, right? Because all, therapeutic procedures and everything works on how you basically split your emotional thinking from the logical thinking, right? Because the issue is that your logical part of the brain is slower, like 10 times than your emotional part of the brain. That's why you believe. And that's why media are pumping a lot of negative news, because you are like, unless you are trained, and I think kids should be trained in, like, 7 years old kids, we should train them, like what the kind of news they should watch and what not, right? Because I think the world is not that bad as we can see on CNN, BBC, and other, media. I'm not talking about media in Czech Republic. I'm not watching those, right? Because I don't think, well, there are some, like, private media are okay, but CT24, that's the public channel. I don't think, because, I think the media should be active, but not activistic. I'm looking for the news. I'm looking for the facts. I'm not looking necessarily for the opinion of the journalist, right? Especially if it's really like screwed in that way or the other way, right? And unfortunately, there are so many of those. And it has all, what does it has to do with your fear? More you are watching it because they are pumping the fearful information, the chances are that you will be depressed, right? This is absolutely, it was all COVID. Now it's all Ukraine. Now it's everything is Israel and Palestine. I know those are tough issues, but a lot of, good and positive stuff is happening around the world, right?
Yes, but this is exactly what we need to start talking about. What is coming in? What is the fear that you can start to block out that's not even in your life or within your control? You're going to do very little to really be able to fix a war in some other place, right? So when there's war, of course, when the war broke out with Ukraine, I said, okay, where can I donate money? How can I help people who have come into Switzerland? And beyond that, I don't have any influence. I wrote to my US Congress people. I can't do anything else. And then I let it go. And this is what's very important when you have fear, when you have things that are overwhelming for you, that are causing you and your nervous system to be overwhelmed and overstimulated. What can I do? Look for the opportunity, take action so you don't feel stuck by it. You're not the victim to it. This is with all fear. What can I do? What can I learn from it? How can I help it? What's within my span of control? Do that if you can, and then you let the rest go. This is what people don't do. They sit, they're worried, they're nail biting. Can you control it? No, then let it go. Better, obviously that's easier to say and harder to do. I am like you, Jan. I don't read very much news. First of all, I read Financial Times, business related stuff. Fine, that's fairly straightforward. And then I tell friends and family, if there's something very urgent that happens in the news, then you come and tell me. Otherwise, I'm not going to read about it. And that's one way to protect myself from the overwhelm. I know you're thinking, but Lisa, yeah, we're talking about fear. Why are you talking about the news and the media? Because it's all connected. They bring up your fear stuff. This sits in your nervous system here. You're already, and then you go to work. And then someone says something to you and you go, oh, they're going to think I'm stupid. I'm an idiot. I'm going to fail. I'm going to mess this up.
And our brain is good, connecting this negative, shit all together. And look, guys, believe me, when you are depressed, and I was deeply depressed, according to one of the best, psychiatrists in the world, Cyril actually said that was one of the worst depression he ever had in his career. So when you are depressed, all your amygdala, your neocortex, the logical part of the brain is gone. It's not working properly. And then your amygdala is streaming basically all negativity and putting all, negative stuff together, creating, the stories basically. And that's exactly, if you are watching, too much like news or when too much negative news, then it's I have heard it. Oh, what about if this, will happen? And what about if the price of the energies will be like 10 times, higher, right? It can be, yes, it can be, but it will probably not happen.
Right. But this is what's so beautiful about fear. And there's a great tool, a little bit like what I described, but I'm now going to go into more detail. It's by Tim Ferriss, who is an amazing entrepreneur, constantly taking risks. Many of you have heard of him because of the 4-Hour Work Week, 4-Hour Chef, 4-Hour Body, etc. And he does annually a fear planning. So he goes, okay, what am I afraid of? I'm not going to run from it. I'm not going to avoid it. I'm not going to go sit on my phone all day because I don't want to think about the things I'm scared about. I'm going to look them straight in the eye. Because first of all, don't let fear run you. You run it. So he says, I'm going to look at it. He even said, not just annually, but maybe even quarterly, depending what he's up to. And he says, okay, what is the fear? Put a name to it. Write it down. Don't just let it swirl in your head. Don't just let 17 different negative things put you in a gloomy mood, but you don't even know what or why. Put it on paper. What are my fears? I'm afraid I'm going to get laid off. I'm afraid I'm not going to provide. I'm afraid I'm not smart enough and they're going to find out. Whatever it is for you, you write down your fears, all of them if you want. And then next to it, there's a column. Okay, so what am I going to do to try to prevent this fear from happening? Okay, I'm not smart enough. What's going on there? And do I feel behind because AI and technology is moving ahead of me and I don't feel caught up? Okay, so what can I do? I can study AI. I can talk to people. I can play with ChatGPT. I can do stuff. Remember, it's important to feel powerful and that you have a sense of control. You're not the victim. You're not weak. You can go. And then the next column over, repair, is also then, what do I do if this bad thing happens? So, I'm afraid I might, energy crisis. I might not have the, energy, worst case scenario. Okay, if that happens, what could I do at that point? I could stock up on, before I could stock up on supplies. If it actually happens, I can, make sure that I talk to my community members and we're all safe. I could do this. I could buy extra energy from this grid instead of this grid. So when you look at your fears, you no longer go, you actually think to yourself, well, hold on. This isn't so bad. Worst case scenario is actually not so bad. And I can do something right now. And if that happens, I know what I can do to help to repair it, to fix it. So I sort of feel I have control, I have influence, I have the power over fear. And then the other part of this I just want to add is that most of us, because we're afraid, we don't take action and we say better to play it safe, better to keep what's happening now, what's called the status quo. Whatever's happening now, I see that because it's safe. Your brain says, I know this, it's my comfort zone, it's fine. So the other part of fear planning is you start to look at the cost of not taking action. Cost of inaction. What happens if I do nothing? We can avoid and pretend there's no energy crisis whatsoever. Nothing bad is going to happen. But if you don't plan for it or think about it or put something in place, there is a cost to that. And when you look at the cost, you might go, oh my God, I really can't afford to run away from my fears and hide and pretend. I really need. And then the other thing you look at is, what possible benefits could there be, even if I had part success, not even a full success, but just a little bit. And as you start to have these thoughts, again, professor, smart part of your brain is coming in, overriding fear. I have control. I have power. I can take action. This is how we start to let fear help us to guide our actions in a direction that we want it to, not running from it because fear ran our actions.
So what we said so far is key to observe the fear, to notice the fear, to give your professor chance. And that's the same with Tim Ferriss. It's a great tool. I use it even with my, athletes and top managers, because it's dividing, because the first column is your amygdala column. It's a monkey column. Okay. Second and the third column is professor's column, right? The thing is, if, monkey is happy, even if you like say, okay, I can imagine this can go wrong, but then I will do that. And absolutely, monkey is happy, you are cool down. That's why what I try to do with athletes, we are visualizing success, but we are visualizing also what kind of the barriers may come. Okay, I tell you what, Alex Shupenic, who is now he is a fencer, and there is a World Cup in Tokyo. What we were doing a couple of days ago, he was like winning 12-8, and we were like visualizing suddenly it's only 12-10. What do you will? Because sometimes he's losing those matches because of the fear. On the other hand, he was like losing 13-9, and he was like getting closer to the right what needs to be done. And if his brain is ready, then he's cooled down. Let's now talk a little bit about different types of the fear. Okay. There is a fear of failure, which is connected. I think we are demonizing the mistakes because we are afraid of another, fear, and that's the fear of other people's opinion. In the past, when people made some mistakes and the chief of the group would say, you are no more part of the group, you are no more hunting with us together, you were done, basically. You were dead. You were not surviving. So which means that through the evolution in our brain, in subconsciousness, we have a program. If we fail, it may cost us life, which is not true at all. Measure 99.999% of the cases is not true. But this is the huge, driver, fear of other people's opinion. It's a huge, driver for the fear. Okay. There is another fear of missing out. If you remember Clubhouse, that was exactly based on that. And that's why it was not successful. I've got a lot of people there following like 40,000, but it was not successful because it was like close group. You got only like 3 invitations to invite somebody else, and they were not supporting, and it was really based on fear of missing out. At the beginning, it was working. Totally. Everybody was at home, but then who cares, right? And then everybody got it. And now I think company fired like half of the people. It's a really, good example how, if you use fear in the wrong way, what can happen in the company. Okay. And then there is another fear of a better option, that you are like paralyzed by analyzing. You are, maybe there's a better option. Maybe there's a better, you are like, okay, I want to switch the job, but maybe there's a better option. So you wait another fucking 5 years, right? There may be better option. You just hope, Hope is not a strategy. Let's put it in this way, Hope is not strategy, I can tell you. So those are like couple of fears. And those fears, they have obviously psychological impact on your brain, but also physiological impact. Because if you have, fear, which is chronic, that's anxiety, and that's very bad for your, body, because then it's not good for your health, because there's, too much cortisol. And cortisol is, as you rightly said, you need to get cortisol to get up in the morning. Cortisol is good, to give us energy a little bit, but if there's too much cortisol, then we are overexcited, right? So yeah, this is it. So we are, in fact, human society is like demonizing, those mistakes. Even if in the news there is no war, then they are talking about failures. Very rarely they would talk about some success. And if they talk about success, they would say, we are suspicious that maybe there is a corruption behind it. So.
Yep, because just success, unless it's like you're, 12 years old and you've launched a business and there's some heroic story to it, remember that everybody's just fighting for your attention. So they're going to work on what's going to be the most dramatic on your emotions in that sense. And here's the thing, you touched on this and I love your list. I mean, where I want to go much deeper is this fear of other people's opinions, because for me, that is like more core than almost anything else. Of course, what we didn't talk about, and I think we should add to that list, is like health and dying. Right? We are very scared of dying. So health becomes a very big issue, mental health, physical health, especially after COVID. But this fear of other people's opinions is what causes people the most stretch, this fear of judgment. Whether you're in the boardroom, are they going to think I'm stupid? Are they going to, or if you're, in a football stadium and you've got 40,000 people either chanting your name or throwing things at you. Did you lose it for the team or not, right? It's all about this social judgment, this social pressure. And we underestimate because we think like, it's fine. I don't care what they say. No, I do my own thing. But as you rightly said, and this is so important for people to understand, it's inside of you for a survival that you care what other people think. Why? When you're born, you are not like a fish who comes and swims out and swims away from mom and gets your own food and you're fine. You absolutely need for a very long time for people to take care of you. So babies are hardwired to want to please parents or whoever's the caregivers, because that's who's going to keep them safe. So we actually are raised to sort of want to connect socially, to be with them, to not get kicked out of the group, because it's survival. So when you are nervous, usually people have the fear, I am not blank enough. I'm not good enough, smart enough, fast enough, clever enough, funny enough, pretty enough. But I am not blank enough. This is usually a core fear for people, but it's not something you would know to write down on a fear planning. It's not like, you would just write, I'm nervous to apply for a new job. You got to go, what's under it? What's behind that? Go down deep, deep within you. Oh my gosh, if I fail, why are you afraid of failing, right? Why are we afraid of making mistakes? Other people will laugh at me. Okay, so what? Oh, because then it proves I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable, whatever it is. So for each one of you listening today, figure out what's that sentence that your amygdala, your monkey, saying, I'm not blank enough, and start working on that fear. So when I used to think, okay, I'm not smart enough, I started then going, okay, hold on, I have to journal about this. Why do I have to prove I'm smart? Why is this important? Oh, because my family's, grew up praising that people are smart. Okay. Do I care about that? What does that mean for me? What does it mean to be smart? And through that, actually growth mindset, I care much more about learning. And in the learning, it ends up, usually that I can be pretty smart because I know a lot. So I could get away from the fear of proving that I'm smart once I could look at it and say, it's a thought I'm having, I'm observing it, but what's really going on and how do I address that? Now, I know that's quite deep for people, but that is where you're going to start to see a huge shift in how you show up to your meetings, looking at yourself, how you can get past these very stressful situations.
Yeah, and here is what is, if we go one level, deeper in the fear of other people's opinion, there's a fear of rejection. Okay. Sure. Every salesman would tell you that the best way how to finish the day is with a good, good deal, to basically finish with a positive deal, because our brain remembers the last, worst experience, basically, right? That's what we remember. If it's finishing in a good way, so that's good. But if it's not, if we are refused, that's the last meeting and we are refused, then we are, even though we did like 10 different sales very, very well that day, we're going still, around. So That's why it's always good to like take a paper and frame your fear or your mistake or whatever, the negative emotions. Okay, frame it. This is what happened, and then put around it everything you did, well. It's called framing and reframing, right? Because you need to reframe. You need to help your professor to look at it. It's like almost like negative zoom in. This is amygdala, and positive zoom out. That's the professor, right?
Yeah.
And what Lisa said about the kids, right? This is quite interesting. What I observe, right, today, that there is a globalization of the ignorance, basically, right? Which I think is quite dangerous, and I tell you why. Because when you are born, you are totally dependent on your parents, whatever. Then you are like growing up, you are independent, okay? And human society works best if we are interdependent, if we work together. And unfortunately, today, you see a lot of tensions in the society. You see a lot of polarization. It started in the United States, Gore against,
Bush.
Al Gore against George W. Bush in 2000, and then there was a COVID and everything else. And social networks are basically creating the groups of the people. So there is even, some people are opinionated about artificial intelligence that it maybe the states will not exist, a couple of years from now. I don't know if it's true or not. That's too much. But the truth is that, people, you don't feel like there is a lot of interdependence today. People are not working that much together, and it has to do with the leadership and everything, obviously.
Yeah, but this also goes to the core. Again, there's fears that are within you as a person, as an individual. Then there's sort of fears at the community level, at the global level, that we still have to work with, that we have to deal with. The fact that we know that we have become so independent. And again, you guys know I'm American, originally before I moved to Switzerland. We are hyper independent. We love being independent. We tell people that they should be independent. We've created a dominant culture around independence. But I can tell you that's why mental illness is very high in America, because we are very isolated. We are very lonely. We are very contentious. We are taught do things for yourself, by yourself. But human beings were not meant to be like that. We were meant to be in groups. Same actually with emotions, strong emotions like fear. Actually, we regulate each other's emotions. We mirror each other. We catch each other's emotions, right? We have mirror neurons in our brains. And it sometimes is the case that if I'm nervous and I come to Jan and I say, Jan, I'm really scared about something. And he says like, hey, it's okay, no problem. That his ability to regulate the emotion, the fear, helps me to regulate. I don't have to do everything on my own. We work with each other. But when you don't have that anymore, when you're not connected, if you're only chatting, we lose that ability to co-regulate together, and the fear and the loneliness and the isolation go up. I just want to quickly ask, for any of you who are here live, we would love to hear from you. If you want to share what your fears are so that we can talk through them, give examples, or where you feel stuck with your fear. Just so that we could do a little bit of live coaching. If anybody wants it, we're here for you. And as you're typing, I'll just add here, this need to be social, it's built into us.
It's wired in our brain. Absolutely.
Wired. You can't control it. So what often happens is we don't actually know this, but we wait to see what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. I'll give you a perfect example. You go to a new company. You don't just walk in being yourself. Usually people walk in, you're a little bit yourself, but you're also watching. How do they do that? Who speaks up in the meeting first? Do they shake hands or not? Did we go to lunch together or not? You're observing and you're seeing how you can sort of blend and fit in. And oftentimes we don't even realize that we're looking for other people to say, it's okay to act this way or not okay to act this way. We look for social permission. And so many times about taking risks, going past fears, everybody will do the opposite of giving you permission. They'll try to put you down. They'll try to keep you safe. They'll try to keep you in a box. They'll try to keep you small. They'll try to keep you on this path. And it does take a lot for you to feel that social pressure against what you want and say, I'm still going to try. Now, here's the beauty of it. Once you can get past that fear of initial judgment and you do whatever it was you want to do, people come around. People go, oh, you're brilliant. You're a genius for doing that. Oh, of course, you were born for that. But in the beginning, they try to keep you in line and safe and secure and narrow. And unless you're aware, oh my gosh, I'm waiting for social permission, but I don't need to wait. On this, you can take a step first, and those around you will follow you. They'll give you the permission after. You give yourself permission up front.
Yeah, there is an opinion that the fear is created by expectations and predictions. Well, yes. Yeah, it is, right? Because I mean, people very often putting their expectations very high, the reality is not there, and they are fearful, to move reality. That's why they are lowering, expectations. Yeah. And in fact, predictions can be, advantageous to fight fear, but it can be also disadvantages. I tell you why. Because if you have some traumatic experience from your childhood and it's sitting in your subconsciousness, and you are in the similar situation, then it goes like that immediately. Hey, this is it, right? For example, if the kids were not having enough, time with your parents, whatever, they felt really they were pushed aside, whatever. So, and then you are, say, in the work and you are new and maybe you are introvert, so it's harder for you to get in touch with the other people, and you feel like that's the same like in my family. And it doesn't need to be, right? But you feel like, hey, okay, there was this traumatic experience. But that's why, childhood is very important. And, Bruce Lipton is saying that 70% of the programs which we are, putting in the brains of our kids are dangerous for them. 70%.
I believe it. I'm trying really hard to fight it.
They train you how to write, how to, speak and everything, but nobody's training you how to be good parent. We are training people how to be good managers, even, right? But we are not. Where can you learn? I mean, maybe on my courses, that's.
We'll all show up to Unlocking Children's Potential, and then we'll know.
Yeah. No, but this is it, because, the childhood is really important. And then if they call it family trauma, right? If like I tell you, like my experience, my mother her upbringing was very tough. She was brought up by, her grandmother, somewhere in the mountains, whatever. So it was a tough environment. The same for my father. And it was the same in our, family. They were very nice, but, very much, result oriented and stuff like that. So it was clear. I'm not saying it's trauma, but it's, the fact that I'm like maximalist and I was perfectionist is the, childhood a little bit. And I moved from that many years ago. I think excellence is much better than perfectionism. Excellence is like be better version of yourself every day. And as you go, you learn, right? Perfectionism, yeah. So
I want to quickly add to this before we go to the next one, because so often, this is what I hear when I'm coaching executives: fear is created by expectations. But I want to be really clear, whose expectations? First, expectations of others, and I would first ask, are they real? Because so many people go, yeah, but I have to because my team needs this, or the boss wants this, or the board is expecting this. And just like Jan said, first question, is this rational? Do they really expect it? Have you talked to them about it? Have you made it clear that those are their expectations? Usually not. And when you actually go and ask people, hey, would you mind if I put it off a week? If you mind if I did it differently? Do you mind if we cut it short? Most people are like, sure, sounds good. So we sort of make up what we think are other people's expectations. And then the next question, like Jan so nicely said, are they your self-expectations? Is it the perfectionist fear within you? Oh my God, I can't fail. I can't be, you know, they have to think I'm smart. They have to say, I have to achieve. I have to. Is that your self-expectation? I have to be better than everyone else. So if everyone else is this good, then I have to be even here. So really look at whose expectations and what's the value of meeting those expectations. Because my next question would actually be, if we were coaching, I would say, let's go for a moment back to self-awareness. What do you value? What do you want to create with your short lifetime? What's the impact you want to have on the world? And then I would say, let's start building stuff towards that, not towards expectations, because I need to be the best. You'll never be the best. What does the best even mean?
Yeah.
But okay, am I making progress towards this goal? Am I helping to move people along in this journey that's important to me? Then we can start to have that conversation about meeting expectations, but it's really much more about impact and being true to yourself than have I looked good or impressed other people. So we can let a little bit go of those because they're putting a false pressure on you. That's important.
Another one from Camille Petrželka. Fear belongs to this comfort zone, and that should naturally enable growth on the body, the same as Jan mentioned. Good to turn fear into motivation factor, although needs to be carefully managed. Absolutely. I will draw something for you guys. How is it with the stress hormones and our performance, right?
Yes. And as you're
this is it. This is I will
you gotta lift it higher.
If you put here your performance and here your nervosity, your stress hormones, this is the curve. So fear is good. The light feel like I'm a little bit, nervous, but I'm looking forward, It's giving you actually a lot of energy. There's a huge upside. Because to start, if you want to generate endorphin, right, which is like the hormone helping you to perform very well, you need to have like starting level of adrenaline, and this is it. If the fear goes, to over here, then look what it does with the performance. The performance would go down. Okay. Yeah. So the fear, when you can basically change the fear into the energy, because all emotions, emovere in Latin means energy in move. Okay. And I believe that you can really change, emotion into the energy. Emotions are contagious, by the way, as Lisa rightly said. If you are with the other people, it's contagious. That's why energy is contagious. Okay. If I have an energy and I'm a leader, today I was like giving a lesson in the Japanese, company, and we were talking about like what it takes to be successful in the US company, what it takes to be in the Japanese company. They asked me, they said, well, you will be 62 and you have so much energy still. I said, well, because I engage, I really engage,
yes.
Right. But then I disengage. When I disengage, I totally disengage, right? It goes like in the past, people were hunting, having a rest, hunting, having a rest. That's what I try to do, now, right? So how to turn that negative energy into the positive energy? I think Novak Djokovic is a great example. Sometimes he's like losing the ball and he's pissed off, okay? But he's like breathing in, breathing out, and all of the negative energy is getting back to the present moment, and suddenly he's getting only the positive energy. This is it, because you need to get, negative energy, the fear is in your brain. You need to connect your, mind to your body and to your breath, because they are always in the present moment and they are like cooling down, even the brain. And if, in my view, if they are in the harmony, then that's your best performance. That's wherever you are. It's your, flow or whatever.
Yes, right? So, that's your peak. One thing we haven't yet shared, which I think is very important, is remember earlier I said a lot of people get stuck in this freeze mode. I want to go walk up to these people when I'm networking, but I don't know how or what would I say? Am I good? I want to speak up in the meeting, but is it going to work? Is it not going to work? And you're stuck because you get the energy to take action, but you have something putting the brakes on you to stop you. And that's when it gets like really nervous energy.
Yeah.
And so instead of saying, oh, let's just calm down and breathe, actually, maybe what you need is a jolt of adrenaline to upregulate you enough to get into your fight mode, to go. Yeah. So Jan said really nice things about the diaphragm and helping this down part by your stomach to calm you down. We're also going to be able to use the lungs and the physiological side to pump you up. So whenever I'm like, oh, uncertain, a little nervous, I do a physiological sigh, which is just a nice breath into the lungs, and then an extra breath. And that's a pump of extra boost of energy. And it's just enough. You do that, and then you go. Don't think after that. Don't go, okay, now what do I want to say? You go. And
no,
just that.
You need to go. Because if you start to think, you will employ again, amygdala.
Exactly. So you do the breath and then you go. All you need is that few seconds.
That's a good point. There is a theory that, if our inhale is on the top, that's when we are, performing the best, or we are making best decisions or whatever, right? That's why also, if you think about it, you are like, if you play tennis, you like inhale, you go to the impact, and then after the impact you are like exhaling, right? Inhaling and then impact and exhaling, and that's and when they are doing like that's exactly, the majority of the players, they don't know why they do it, but it's basically like relaxing the body more or less through the breathing, right?
But that's exactly it. So sometimes people with fear say, oh, I need to calm down. And what I want to say is, actually, if you're in that stuck mode, maybe you need the boost up and out. And so you take the breath, 5 seconds of micro courage. Just do it. Just start. Just pick up the phone. Just call. Just walk up. And then it's actually, the fear is worst in your head before you've done it. You're building it up. You're, oh my God, what, I'm going through scenarios. Once you're in it, you can handle whatever happens.
Very often people who I coach are telling me, I'm not able to do it. I'm not able to do it. And my question is, how do you know unless you try? You know what? I'm always telling them, that's amygdala. That's the monkey answer. That's not professor answer. You need to try. That's the logical answer. You need to try. Maybe, you would never hear from me to say, I'm not able to do it. There are many things I'm not able to do, but I need to try first. Okay.
Exactly. Never self-reject. Same for like, let yourself go out there. Oh, you want to ask someone a favor? You want to ask if someone will do something for you? Let them say no. But they're not gonna, they're busy. Do not self-reject. Oh, I shouldn't apply for that job. I don't meet all the criteria. Let them say no.
Absolutely.
Because you don't know how far you can go. People often ask me, Lisa, why aren't you afraid of failure like everyone else is? And I will tell you, I don't like failing. So don't get me wrong. Don't say like I'm excited, I celebrate, I have a party. But for me, I seek out failure because I want to live my life knowing I've went my full potential. I want to hit my boundaries to know how far I can go. If you're forever holding yourself back and saying, oh, I can't, I don't know, maybe one day in the future, then you never reach your full potential. So I'd rather try it, be terrible at it, and go, okay, that's not the direction I can go in, but at least I know. I will not have regrets on my deathbed.
Absolutely.
This is what most people regret. They didn't try.
If you want to be successful, you should fail from time to time, because if you are not failing, I'm telling people, fail from time to time or go home, because if you are not failing, you are not trying enough, If you are not failing in your life, that means that you are all the time in your comfort zone and you are not growing, Easy as it. And I failed so many times, and it's obviously you need to be in the good company, whatever. Bill Gates was always telling me, if you don't know whether you should do it or not, just do it. You can always ask for forgiveness. And I asked a couple of times, this is it, right? We learn as we go, and And every failure is a lesson. You know, Nelson Mandela was saying, I win or I learn. There's nothing like, you know, losing, right? Because, I mean,
Yes.
you can lose. If you are losing, if you fail and you are not learning, that's lost time. If you fail and you learn, it's not lost time. You still learn something, you know, new, right?
Yes, and also you have to think about everything with fear, with failure, as we're wrapping up tonight. It's
Yeah.
not something that's going to happen to you. You're not a victim. This is the amygdala. Oh my God, bad things. Oh, stay safe. It's not happening to you. If I'm going out and I'm seeking to push my boundaries,
Yeah.
a failure can happen, but I'm making it happen. When I want feedback, I'm not waiting around going, oh, do they like me? Oh my God, are they good? I go out and say, hey guys, I'm going to give a performance today. Please give me feedback at the end so I can get better. I'm in control. I'm working with failure, with fear, and letting it motivate me, letting it help me to move forward. Do not let fear run you. Do not let anything make you the victim. And if you can stand up, I have two last comments to share. Always, I keep a Post-it note in front of people who are new to this. And when you feel a failure, when you notice it, I'm noticing I'm having a failure. What's the opportunity here? Keep a Post-it note in front of you. Ask the question, what's the opportunity here? And see what opens up, because your brain will start to shift to your professor mode. And the last thing I would say, before I go to bed every night, I rate myself on several things. Did you do your best to be loving and kind to your husband? Did you do your best to be loving and kind to your children? Did you do something today that scares you? I'm proactively.
Selfie. Every evening selfie. That's what you do.
So I actively seek out fear. I don't have to fear fear. I want fear. It guides me. So use fear to guide you in propelling you forward, seeing where you can really go, living the life you were meant to truly lead.
Yeah. A couple of closing thoughts. What we said basically, that in order to, you know, use fear in your favor, you need to observe the fear. That's number one. You need to help your logical part of the brain to observe, you know, your amygdala observing the fear, and then ask. We gave you a couple of, you know, tools, Tim Ferriss and the three logic. Is it logic? Is it? Do I have any proof for it? Is it, you know, advantageous for me? And the last comment, Lisa mentioned self-awareness. I mean, the people I work with and the most successful, those people are, if they understand who they are, if they understand what is their meaning, and if they can decide, you know, to use who they are to achieve what they want and to go to really to the action. And the thing is, you know, decisions and actions are key in our lives, right? You know, unless we try, right? But if you are self-aware and you have your meaning in your life, it's easier for you to face the fear and use the fear in your favor, because you know, hey, this is it. It's long term, and whatever can happen on my way can happen, you know, right? But this is really something. It's my like dream, you know. It's my meaning, because you know the meaning of your life. What do you do? There needs to be fulfillment. You should really feel like, hey, I really like, you know, what I do, right? They asked me in this Japanese company, and I said, I'm having energy because I really like what I do. In Microsoft, I like 80% what I did, 20% like administrative stuff. I didn't like it. Now I like 100% of what I do, right? So, yeah. So this is it.
Love
so,
it.
guys, thanks very much for being with us, and see you soon again.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care. Have a good one.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll do my selfie kisses.